I'm your host, Rob Carbone. This is BD4.
Barrett, some shake is big. Gets a three. That's alive. This is one by Barrett. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye. Anthony for three. That one goes down. Gotta put 4 fingers on it. When Torres comes to the plate. The wall. See ya. Got it.
All right, episode 205 of the podcast tonight of BD4. I am your host, RJ Carbone. Welcome to the show. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Just go to my website, nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com. Guys, hope everybody's doing well. Yes, we did have to delay the podcast an extra day. I had a busy weekend. That's why there was no recap on the Boston Celtics game, but we are back. Gonna touch on the last 2 games. I know, again, we delayed a day, so, I'm not really gonna touch on that Cavs game 3 games ago, but that game pretty much, it was a rough loss. The Knicks looked like they were gonna complete the comeback, but ended up being another trademark fake comeback. RJ Barrett, he had a good game, but he had 2 crucial turnovers. One of them that could have been argued a kicked ball by Drummond, but nonetheless, the Knicks had their opportunities against Cleveland and couldn't cash in. On Sunday night, they travel to Boston after the Cleveland game, and Sunday night taking on the Celtics and beating the shit out of them by 30. Then they come back home this afternoon, earlier today, on a Monday, MLK Day, as I am recording, and the Knicks today also defeated the Orlando Magic at home. So we're going to get to those 2 games, break them down a little bit, discuss some certain things, analyze a few things, and we'll wrap it up after that. So let's head to break, and there's no point in wasting any time. But guys, if you haven't checked out episode 204, be sure to do that because we talked Yankees. It was, the first Yankees episode I've done in quite a bit, but for a good reason, because the Yankees brought back DJ LeMahieu, and they also took a flyer on Corey Kluber, signing him to a 1-year deal for about $11 million. So I talked about that with my buddy Greg. Greg joined us for episode 204. It was a very good conversation. We talked for about 45 minutes to an hour. And you guys should definitely check that out. Once again, that's episode 204 of the podcast. So the second most recent once this podcast episode is out. So guys, check out 204. Again, I had Greg from Yankee Crazy Podcast on the show. He was wonderful. We loved what we discussed. We could have went on for hours, really, if we, had the time. But it was a great episode. Again, we talked for about an hour, so go check out 204. But let's head to break, guys, and as soon as we get back from break, we'll dive right into tonight's 205 on the Knicks. Be right back. Hey, fellows. So, really briefly, before we get back into things here, I just want to remind you that if you haven't yet subscribed to this podcast, to BD4, then you can go do that right now on my website. You can go to nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com/connect. Once again, in order to subscribe to this podcast, BD4, and if you want, follow me on social media and subscribe to the blog that I write, just go to my website. Go to nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com/connect. Guys, thank you so much, and let's get right back into it. Knicks Celtics. So, first off, I don't know if anybody saw, but that Brooklyn-Milwaukee game was pretty good. Very intense basketball game. Went down to the final seconds. Bunch of 3-point shots. There's a good possession where I don't remember the exact specifics, but it was like with under a minute to go. The game was close. It was at least within 3, the biggest margin. James Harden takes a three, misses. Rebound goes back to, I think Jordan gets the board, tosses it to KD. He takes that three. He makes it. I thought that was like the perfect epitome of whose team it is, and who's the clutch player, because I've never believed James Harden to be a successful number one. And I've always thought that KD, especially since he's won a ring with the Warriors, he's the true option on that team now. So I thought that was a pretty good example there. But the Bucks ended up losing, and the Nets edged them out with like 120-something points, and they gave up a lot of points. Listen, I think the Nets are going to win a lot of regular season games. I think that's a given. The issue is going to be, or it could be, the playoffs. How, are you going to continue to rely on offense to get by, or will they have enough rebounding? Will they have enough defense and depth to get through the thick of it with, other teams in the East? And if they make it far, will they be able to take on, potentially a very good Lakers team or whoever comes out of the West? So I think they've got obviously the boom or bust potential, but as far as the regular season goes, I think Nets fans will enjoy, all 12 Nets fans will enjoy what they get. Again, as far as the regular season goes. But the Knicks, we're here to talk about the Knicks, and it's, again, they lost 5 in a row, right? Heading into Sunday night. But very quickly things can change, as we saw when they were 5-3, and then they lost those 5 straight. But here we are. Things are changing again, and the narrative's starting to change around the Knicks fan base. And they won 2 straight. So they take the Celtics on yesterday. By the way, I one more thing on the Nets. I was speaking on it in episode 203. How, I gave my take on the whole Nets thing. I don't like today's NBA, like how you can just act like a toddler, cry like a baby, bitch and moan, and get your way. We see this with a number of athletes. Like we saw Kyrie was acting. We saw AD acting like a baby to get to LA. Now we're seeing Harden. The whole thing with the wake-in and just being a dick in press conferences, calling out teammates and the team and the organization, whatever. I just hate that. How you can, and they give in. The GMs, the organization gives in. They trade them every time. I hate that. And this is a good point that, who made this point? It was, because I wanted to say it, but I was listening to WFAN, Boomer and Gio, and Gio made a good point. He pretty much said what I just said. He reminded me, though, to say that tonight, and I just wanted to point that out. I agree, though. I hate how the modern NBA is, where you can just act like an ass and get your way. It pretty much summarizes, though, the era we're in, right? The NBA is such a... The only reason I watch it, man, is just because I've been a Knicks fan for a bit, and I've grown to become attached to them regardless of how bad they are. But it's such a bad prima donna league full of a bunch of entitled brats, and I'm sorry, I just had to get that out. Now I'm sure if one of those crybabies cried their way onto my team, onto the Knicks, and I'd have no issue with that, but. No, honestly, I just, from a fan's perspective, not being biased at all, it's frustrating to watch. It's annoying to sit and listen to these guys, to watch these guys do that. But let's get to the Celtics game. So I don't want to waste too much time on a useless rant. So the Knicks take on the Celtics on Sunday night, and they pound them by 30 points. They win 105-75. The Knicks slash 48% from the field, 81% from the charity stripe, and 39% from 3. They were plus 10 on the boards, and they also had 23 assists versus 17 turnovers. Boston shot 30%, from the field. They were 62% from three, and they were a paltry 15% from three-point distance. They were bad. The Knicks had pretty much the control of the entire game. It was a wire-to-wire victory, and it was the first time the Knicks beat the Celtics since 2018. November of 2018 donned the Trey Burke game. So we all remember that one. But, the Celtics came into this one riding a 5-game win streak, and the Knicks, again, riding a 5-game losing streak, but that didn't matter. The Celtics were without Jason Tatum, but that is no excuse to lose to the Knicks by 30. They're one of the better teams in the East, one of the deeper teams, so no excuse. They did, have Kemba Walker debut for the first time this season. I think he was it the knee injury that took him out, but he was a little rusty. Shot 3 of 12 maybe. But so let's just get to the summary of it. First quarter comes and the Knicks go up 7-2. A decent start in the opening minutes here. I think to get the 7th point, it's Peyton connecting on a floater, and then Brad Stevens immediately calls a timeout. I thought that was pretty funny. Midway through the quarter, I would say about the 5-minute mark or something like that, Mitchell Robinson blocks a jumper, becoming a trademark. But he falls hard and he lands awkwardly. If you see the replay, it's ugly. So he comes out of the game for a bit, comes back in later. But Knicks pretty much take care of Boston in the first period, despite Jaylen Brown tearing them up. He was the only Boston in rhythm. He had 11 points of their 22 points in the first, hitting 3 3-pointers in the period. So Jaylen Brown was going. But pretty much the Knicks were just locking them down. They had very sharp defense. Boston was just throwing up bricks. And, the Knicks ended up leaving the first period ahead 28-17. So, second quarter comes, more of the same. The Knicks continue to play defense. They're forcing turnovers. They're scoring off of those turnovers. They're crashing the glass, and they're forcing missed shots. And Quickley, he gets hot. As always, he checks in and he starts taking over with the floaters. It's become a thing for him. He likes it. It's working. So overall, the first half, the Knicks were playing good defense. Again, they were crashing the boards. So they forced 11 turnovers, and they also had 8 offensive rebounds in the first half, 13 second chance points. That was huge. And they held Boston to 35 points in the first half. So good half, defensively at least. Second half was pretty much a blowout. The majority of it was garbage time. Nerlens Noel did step up. He played good again, played really good defense. There was a nice sequence towards the end of the third where Noel had a steal and slam. So that was good to see him finally do something. And we got some more good Quickley play in that second half, finding guys like RJ Barrett a few times, Obi Toppin. Obi looked great. He was aggressive, comfortable off the ball. Ended up with 12 and 5 with a steal and a block in 17 minutes. The Knicks won. So 105-75, a good 30-point victory for them. Leading in scoring was Julius Randle with 20 points. Also had 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. RJ Barrett goes 19, 11, and 3, plus 32 to lead the team. Mitchell Robinson goes 8, 7, 2 blocks. IQ 17 and 8 on 7 for 12 and 2 for 4 from deep. Again, Obi looked pretty good. He was comfortable off the ball, slashing, cutting. Him and IQ have a good chemistry developing. We saw that more today. So Obi goes 12 and 5. Kevin Knox and Rivers pretty ineffective, combining to go 1 for 6 in 31 combined minutes. So that was game 13 of the season. Tonight we'll get to the earlier today actually, the Knicks Magic. So one last time the Knicks take down the Celtics by 30. So in the Knicks Magic, this was a good one. That's sarcasm. This was rough. It was a win though. A win is a win. So as much as you want to complain about it, it got the Knicks to 7 and 8 at the end of the day. So back to respectability. They picked up their first back-to-back sweep, and this is going to happen when you play day games. 2 day games in a row. You're not expecting the team to be sharp, but So they weren't. It was a very sloppy game. Missed shots, missed free throws, some turnovers, a bunch of no calls. But the fact that the Knicks won both of these games despite performing pretty bad, it's a nice sign, right? It shows that Tom Thibodeau once again has these guys really fighting, and they're a resilient ball club. So it was the first back-to-back sweep in 3 years, which was pretty crazy. So Knicks taking on the Magic again. Magic without Markelle Fultz. He's out the entire year. Was he traded, though? He might have been traded. I don't know. But they were with Cole Anthony, who's obviously Greg Anthony's son. Cole Anthony was a draft prospect that the Knicks weren't really looking at. They were kind of shying away from him the whole time. I was up and down with that. I was kind of conflicted whether I wanted him or not, but not off to a great start. He's been very inefficient. He was 0 for 10 from 2-point distance today, 2 for 12 overall. But yeah, Knicks Magic, another sloppy game where both teams shot in the 30% range. The Knicks missed 10 free throws today, and they were just 19% from the arc. So things could have been better for the offensively for the Knicks had Tibbs not waited so long to check Quickley in the second half. Played really good again in the first half, but he waited so long, and he does this often to plug Quickley in the second half. And I think if he would have put him in, even halfway through the third quarter and not waited so incredibly long, the Knicks probably would have had more of an offensive rhythm out there. But so Quickley didn't really have that same, floater game. Wasn't working as well when he came back in the second half. He didn't really play as much. So regardless, the Knicks picked up the victory. Okay, so they were flirting with pulling away all game. Kind of never did, though. They did finally find some kind of distance between themselves and Orlando with a 14-point lead heading into the final frame. But they kind of allowed Orlando back in it with more misses and from the field and the line and, poor offensive play. Orlando comes back in it, and, it goes back and forth for a bit. But pretty much looking at it, it's Randall and it's RJ who were the two key contributors down the stretch for the Knicks in this one. So despite closing with their starters, which I did not love, again, you would have liked to see Quickley out there, the guys you want to see thrive really played well. RJ, Randall, and Mitch had some key sequences as well down the stretch. But Randall and Barrett specifically came through. Got a couple things I wrote down here I want to read off. So at 6:07 left, RJ hits a driving layup, puts the Knicks up 3. Big shot there. With 3:50 remaining in the fourth, Randall hits a pair of free throws, puts the Knicks up 3. With 3.5 remaining in the fourth, so not long after that, Terrence Ross hits a 3-point shot. That ties it. 2:49 remaining. RJ cleans up a Randall 3-point miss, puts the Knicks up 2. 1:40 left. Terrence Ross again, a last-second heave at the top of the 3-point arc. Gets it to go. Puts the Magic up 1. 1:33 left. 7 seconds later, Randall hits a game-tying free throws, ties it at 81. And here's 57 seconds left. Randall, an incredibly strong take. I mean, he just bitches. I think the kid's name was Birch. Bitches him on a spin lay-in and ends up converting it. Puts the Knicks up to 83-81 with 57 to go. 46 seconds left. RJ, really good defense. Big defensive play from him. Plays the passing lanes, gets the steal, tips it to Bullock. Bullock throws it to RJ on the break. RJ converts at the rim, extends the Knicks lead 85-81. So, from there, Knicks pretty much sealed it. It was Randall hitting 4 free throws, Bullock hitting a couple between that, and the Knicks pick up the victory. So it was a good game. Randall ends up with 21 and 17 on an off shooting night. One of his worst nights shooting wise. He forced it a bit. He only had 1 assist. Wasn't great. This was one of those 2019-20 Randall performances. But he came through in the stretch with 7 of 8 free throw shooting in the fourth quarter alone from Randall. So hit some big shots, got to the line and hit those ones. So a good win. RJ again, clutch again, double-double, second night in a row, 22, 10, 4. Shoots 9 of 19 from the field, but missed all 3 three-pointers, so he was efficient inside the arc. Continues to be an enigma outside the arc. but he was efficient, and you know that's good to see him kind of string together some more efficient games after that rough stretch. He's had a very streaky season. Opening night, he goes out there against Indiana and shoots 73%, was it? Then he goes on a 4-game dry spell where he shoots 26%. Then the next 2 games, he's 53%. And then the next 4 games, he's 30%. And now we look back at the last 4 games, and he's just a tad under 50%. So a very up and down season for Barrett. But I would like for him to get that field goal efficiency back over 40%. And my goal for him is to try and hit 45 this year. So we'll see what happens. But I think, listen, if RJ, again, we've discussed this all season. It would be nice for him to get more ball time. Honestly, if he plays some point forward a little bit here and there, that'll at least get him more ball time, right? I know he's not a point guard, but he has really improved as a playmaker this year, as a passer. And, he does his best work when he has the ball in his hands. And so I think playing him at the point forward spot occasionally would at least help him be featured more and become more efficient. Because right now what we're doing, with Peyton out there running the lead guard position and being the second on the team in fucking usage rate, I don't think that helps RJ Barrett. He's often, again, we say it all the time, spotting up outside the arc. And that's not his game. He doesn't need to be taking... He's one of the NBA leaders in jumpers 20 plus feet away. I was looking it up earlier today. He's like top 10. I'm pretty sure he's top 10. Might even be 7. We don't need that. We need him, posting up. We need him finishing in transition, playing downhill, bulldozing, driving, slashing. You know what I mean? Just his bread and butter is the mid-range when he's got it going. Not spotting up as some catch and shoot 3-point launcher. That's not his game. So when Peyton's out there, that often that's what we see. So I think if you get Quickley out there with him more, he can play some combo guard. Let's remember, he's a 1, he's a 2. He's got a little bit of both in him. So I would like for Quickley to start. Tired of saying it. Don't want to waste too much time saying it because when's it going to happen? But I think the Knicks thought process here, from Tom Thibodeau is, we have a chance to contend for a playoff spot. I'm not saying they do, but I think that's what Tom Thibodeau is thinking. Being he's a winner and all. He's thinking they have a chance to compete for a playoff spot. Why ruin the rhythm? Let's keep starting Peyton until we start tanking. And once we start flopping and the chances look grimmer and grimmer, we'll go Quickley. I think that's his thought process. Do I agree with it? No. I think Quickley should be out there right now. I think this is going to be, in the end, another year where the Knicks miss the playoffs. Do I think they're going to be lottery bad? No, I don't think they'll be bottom third in the league. I think they'll be just missing out this year of the playoffs, which is a huge step in the right direction if they continue to play hard under Thibodeau. So yeah, I would eventually like to see Quickley out there. I mean, we're 14, 15 games in, 2 weeks, full of games, and we still have to watch this non-existent player as a scorer go out there and just be below mediocre. It just makes sense. IQ shoots the ball, he pushes the pace, he advances it up the court, he moves it around, he's got the energy, he's good at drawing fucking fouls, he is so good at doing that Lou Williams, Chris Paul, James Harden shit. Of course, he's got that floater. Excellent operating in pick and roll. Really good with Mitch, Obi in the pick and roll game. He plays well with Knox, with RJ, and really all the other kids. He really has them playing good basketball when he's out there. He plays at a faster pace, and that just helps the Knicks. So, let him do his thing. Let Quickley go out there and let him go through his ups and downs. I would rather see Immanuel Quickley work through inconsistencies than watch Elfrid Payton, somebody who's already topped out at a mediocre ceiling, go out there and just be consistently bleh. No, eventually, again, IQ, I'm not expecting him to go out there and drop 20 a night. No, he's going to have ups and downs. I think eventually he's going to have to find another shot beside that floater, right? That in between games is going to have to develop. He's going to have to find some kind of mid-range jumper. We haven't seen that from him yet. It's like it's either that floater, he's drawing a foul on a jumper, or he's shooting that 3-point shot that he loves to take a couple of feet behind the arc. So eventually he'll have to develop some kind of jumper in the mid area. But I like his game, man. I like his game. So yeah, it just makes too much sense to not start the kid. But yeah, the Knicks pick up the victory. They're 7-8, and things look more promising again. I'm not going to say they're a good team, because last time I said, are they a decent team? They lost 5 straight. But we'll see what happens. You keep it going. We played terribly sloppy basketball these last 2 nights, but we still won, right? And that's the Tom Thibodeau effect. And are there things I would like to see? Yeah, we got to clean it up. Some things that have been bothering me all season that I haven't really mentioned much. Fundamental shit. Like, can we please start boxing out? I would like for these guys to start boxing out. I mean, it's like a common theme in today's game. But, I mean, you don't see any Nick boxing out consistently from minute 1 to 48. There's nobody out there who puts that effort in. I'm tired of seeing 3 guys around there under the net and, the ball still not ending up in our hands. We've got to do a better job boxing out. Setting screens, setting hard screens and setting them long. A lot of the time I see these Randall, Robinson, though he's improved, setting lazy half-ass screens where they don't hold it long enough and they roll. They set for like a half second and they roll. A little longer. I would like to see some hard screens there. So boxing out, setting screens, fundamental shit like that, I would have thought Thibodeau would have had them doing, but that's one of the things I would like to see them kind of concentrate on more. So overall, you like the way we're playing, though. RJ is looking promising. Randall is continuing to play at an all-star level. Mitchell Robinson continues to be a defensive prowess. Obi Toppin, I would like to see him start playing 25 minutes a night now. What are we doing with this thing? I mean, if he's healthy, he's healthy. If he's not, he's not. Either play him or don't. He got, 30 seconds when he first came back from the injury. Gets 10 minutes the next night, 17 the next, so maybe we're progressing a bit. Today, he gets 9 minutes, and this is on a day where Kevin Knox is off, where Julius Randle was missing left and right. You would have thought he got more time. So I don't know what we're kind of doing here with Obi Toppin. Again, his development is going to be dependent on what we do with Randall down the line. But, he's kind of looked out of rhythm, out of sync, not really finding anything yet. He did have a great game against the Boston Celtics, which we just discussed. But, yeah, I would like to see Obi out there for at least 25 minutes a night, just to show us what he's got. And it looks like I'm not worried about him. I see the talent, right? He can be a great slasher and a passer too, pretty advanced as a passer for a big. I just hope we stop using him as this floor spacer, right? Like we kind of do with RJ Barrett, like we said. Toppin's just hovering outside in the corner. I want to see him more down in the dunker spot, playing in short roll. But rolling to the rim. But, I mean, I understand it's difficult. You have a lot of bigs that are playing well right now. But something to keep an eye on. And playing him with IQ, again, another thing that could really benefit his game. He's really good in pick and roll with Quickley. In the limited time they've shared the floor together. So, Mitch had 10 more rebounds earlier today. Played some more terrific defense, but yeah, another thing I would like to see is let's run some more P&R action with Mitch. Let's get him going some more. Again, goes back to, can we please start giving Quickley more minutes or the starts. I mean, guarantee you involve Mitch more, you throw him more lobs, you get him more field goal attempts, and he's a guy who can go out there and score double figures more consistently and maybe top out at 15 a night. He's played really, really good on the defensive end of the floor, right? Really strong. But the offense isn't there. He obviously doesn't have many moves. The jumper looks terrible. He's awful at the free throw line. He hasn't taken a single jump shot yet from anywhere on the floor this season. So right now he's strictly still a rim runner. But while he's rim running, can we at least utilize that and throw him more lobs? That's one thing I would like to see. Austin Rivers, has this guy made a shot since his, 75-point outing the other week when he scored a bunch in the fourth? He's kind of regressing back down to earth and showing you why we're paying him so little. What else do I have here? Pretty much it. Randall continues to dominate the mid-range this year. The numbers are down near the rim, but they were saying he's like over 56% in the mid-range area. I think that's an NBA, the leader. I think he's the NBA leader. So he's doing his little mellow shit, posting up in the mid-post and shooting mid-range step backs. So overall, guys, this is your Knicks. We're gonna have a lot of ups and downs, but we are 7-8, and I think anybody who asked you before the season, would you be happy that the Knicks are 17 or are 7-8, 15 games in, 100% of us would say yes, right? We are satisfied at least. Again, I think the biggest thing is Tom Thibodeau has this team buying in, right? He has them playing defense. He has them moving the ball, right? They are fighting every single night. They are so resilient. Guys are putting in work. Good practices. There was a walkthrough before today's game against the Celtics. So there's a ton of effort being put in, behind the scenes and when they're not playing the games. So it's paid off to a 7-8 record. He's got his guys going out there and playing hard. And they're showing trust in him, and they're showing that they're as each day goes by and the Knicks continue to play good basketball, not even win, but if they continue to play good basketball, you're going to see that trust increase more and more. Guys are buying into his system. They like what Tom Thibodeau is doing. There's a good chemistry on this team. You look at the bench, they are going nuts every time we make a run. Love that. Got a good group of guys here that really seem to be interested this year. So, trying to think if I have anything else to add. I think that's it. The Knicks are 7-8, and who do they have next? They don't play until Thursday. It's the Golden State Warriors, who they play at 10 o'clock p.m. So after a couple of day games, they go to a 10 p.m. They're going to play a 10 p.m. game on the West Coast. It might be the West Coast trip, which is usually rough every year, but so Warriors on Thursday. Have to check. It might be Utah after that, but I'm not sure. But that's it. Pretty much that's all we've got. The Cavs, they waived Kevin Porter Jr., and some people are talking about if the Knicks should make an offer here. I don't know much about him. I know he's averaging like 10, 4, and something. He's having a decent statistical year. But, I don't know. The way the chemistry, we just mentioned how good the chemistry is and how, it looks like the Knicks have this camaraderie. And if the Cavs waived Porter Jr. for throwing shit in the locker room because somebody took his locker, I don't know if we want that right now. Especially being that we'd have to waive somebody to get him. I don't think he's that special to do that with. So I would stay clear at the moment. Just keep doing your thing and let him go elsewhere. So, hey, playing well. All in all, I like the job Tom Thibodeau has done this year, but the one thing that I still think needs to change, and we're all going to say it, have to get Immanuel Quickley the keys to the starting point guard position. You cannot keep running Elfrid Payton out there. Did he have a good game today? Sure, he played decent basketball. He, maybe he might have been the only Knick who was over 50%. Have to check, but for the most part, Elfrid Payton is not benefiting this team. He's not a great basketball player, nor does he benefit the guys who we're trying to develop right now. He doesn't have a modern game. It's simple as that. So please, I mean, we are 15 games in. It's a 72 game season. So I'm terrible at math. So let's do the math. 15 divided by 72 equals 21%. So we're almost a quarter of the way through the season, and we're still throwing Payton out there. I mean, at some point, it's got to change. Again, like I said, if we start losing a bunch of games and we realize we're not this contender after all, maybe Thibodeau will finally pull the plug. But I really don't want it to come down to that. I really think we could still be a decent-looking team with Quickley out there. We play better with Quickley out there than when Payton is. So that's the one thing I want to see change. Kevin Knox has cooled off, but I would still like for him to get some more minutes. 25 a night would be nice, but right now my big thing is get the hell out of that lineup, Payton. He has got to find a way off this roster would be nice, but out of that lineup to begin with. So that's my one knock on Thibodeau, but we'll see. Guys, that's it for 205. Thank you for stopping by. Let's head to the NYK question of the day. All right, so for episode 203, because remember in 204 we didn't have a question of the day. It was just Greg and I talking about the Yanks. But in episode 203, our NYK question of the day, brought to you by Anchor, was Wilt Chamberlain dropped 100 points on the Knicks. We all remember, well, we don't remember it, but we all know of that. When he dropped 100 on the Knicks, who led the Knicks in scoring that night? So once more, when Wilt Chamberlain dropped 100 on the Knicks, who was the leading scorer for them? The answer to that, it was Richie Guerin. Richie Guerin led the Knicks in scoring that night. So I think it was off the bench too. Excuse me. So that was the answer to 203's question of the day. This episode's NYK question of the day is, who led the Knicks in assists, steals, and triple doubles in the year 1979-1980? All right, so who led the Knicks in assists, steals, and triple doubles in the 1979-80 NBA season? Who was that? All right, so message me the answer on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And that is it. That's all we've got, guys. So episode 205 is in the books. Thank you so much for stopping by. I am your host, RJ Carbone, and this is BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. That's it for the podcast. That is it for this podcast. You can find the podcast on my website on nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com. That will take you to my website. You can subscribe to my blog on the website. You can follow me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Or you can find the many platforms for this podcast and listen to us there. Or you can watch us on YouTube. But if you want to listen to us only, you don't have time to watch, you're on the go, you just need to listen, maybe on your way to work. Not that any of you are even listening to this. I've got about one follower, one listener, usually every night. No, I think I average a whopping 9. But, for those of you who do tune into this garbage, you can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, SoundCloud, and many more platforms. So many platforms to listen to the podcast on. So do that right now. Go and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't yet. Guys, that's all we've got. One more time, episode 205 of the podcast of BD4. I am your host, RJ Carbone, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, guys. Ciao.
This podcast is sponsored by Anchor.